My name is Robert. I'm a mining surveyor, or was anyway. Not that it matters anymore, or it does. It gets confusing once you've been where I've been. Sorry, I'm getting before myself. It was a routine contract. October 24th. I'd received an email from Do-It Mining Corp who wrote that I'd been recommended by a friend. They just acquired the rights to the Thornfield mine and wanted me to conduct a survey. All I had to do was check the deposits, assess if it was safe for entry and create a map. Like I said, just another Tuesday, I brought the usual crew. Tommy, the best mine technician I knew. Name any of the world-famous mines and there's a big chance he'd either worked or consulted there. Amanda, or as we called her Queen of Rocks, was the best geologist this side of my contact list. We drove out that morning, joking about what we'd do with our shares. See, Do-It had offered us 10% of whatever was mined, unusual in our line of work, but a quick web search showed they were a new company. One of those new tech-funded operations. I took it, they were just eager to get started. Tommy said he'd finally retire, kick up his feet and start that bar he always wanted to. Me? I would pay off the mortgage and take the family on holiday. Funny how none of that matters now. We pulled up outside the site, and got the gear ready. Have you guys read the paperwork? Amanda threw her backpack on. And checked her headlamp. Yeah, it was an old copper mine, right? Tommy leaned against the Jeep, enjoying the last nicotine he was going to get for the next few hours. Yeah, but the yield doesn't add up. It was operational from 51 foot to 95, but not a single ore was mined. Why would you keep a mine open for 44 years, and not extract anything? Lisa fastened her boots. We all know they weren't really that keen on safety or paperwork in those days. Either the old firm was doing backhanded deals on the ore or they just didn't give a shit. I grabbed GoPro from the glove box and clipped it to my jacket. Either way, we're going to be rich, so let's get down there. Tommy jogged ahead. It started just like any other job. How far did the old record say it went down? I began sketching the map as we walked on ahead. 200 m, which means we should be in, mapped, out and enjoying a steak on Robert in no time. Lisa marked the first junction with a painted arrow pointing to the exit. The first 150 m went without a hitch. The ground sloped gently downwards. We marked the passages, collected rock samples and drew the map. The last 50 m was where we should have turned around and left. I wish we had. Robert, do you see this? Amanda shone her headlight across the walls. The veins of the ore ran parallel into the darkness. I should probably explain, mineral veins, including copper, normally form within the cracks and fractures of rock. They can form in sets of parallel fractures, but it normally comes with variations and imperfections. Simply put, they follow the stress patterns in rocks, which are rarely uniform. Whoa, this is an insane amount of deposit. It goes all the way down. Tommy whistled. That 10% is looking pretty great. But why haven't they mined it? Amanda carried on ahead. Lisa marked another arrow towards the exit as we turned right. They probably wanted to follow the veins to the mother lode. Maybe they did. I shone the flashlight which began to flicker down the shaft. Time to rope up and follow the ore. Does anyone else feel a bit dizzy? Amanda disconnected the rope, and took a swig of her water. It's probably the lower levels of oxygen, but nothing to worry about. Tommy took a deep breath and grinned. See? How are you one of the highest rated mining technicians in the world? Groaned Amanda. Lisa unhooked the rope, and then pointed her torch at the veins. I followed the light, and saw they carried on further ahead. This was going to be a big find, guys. I think we're close. I pocketed the tablet, and walked ahead. We should follow the ore, and then see where the veins end before we call it a day. We walked ahead, following the veins before Amanda spotted something in the rock. What is that? She used her sleeve to wipe away the dust, and there embedded in the wall was a watch. Rocks don't have watches embedded in them. This isn't normal. Amanda made some notes in her logbook. There was probably a landslide or sinkhole. And it probably got buried. Let's carry on. Tommy surged ahead. Amanda took a photograph, and then followed suit. I think back now, and wonder why we didn't spot the signs. As we walked on, the air felt heavier. I started developing a headache, nothing major. It was just a persistent throbbing behind the eyes. Lisa gave me some painkillers, and I trudged on. Hey guys, check this out. Tommy was standing next to half a dozen mine cars filled to the brim with copper ore. Why would they just leave it here? That makes no sense. Amanda, what do you think? I turned around, and saw her standing a few yards back, staring at her phone. Amanda, I called out again. I know that watch, Robert, her voice barely audible. Yeah, a lot of watches are the same. I started walking back up to her. No, that's my grandfather's watch, Robert. It had his initials on the watch face. And it's got the same scratch on the glass. She had tears in her eyes. He's died when I was a kid, Robert. Hey, take a breath, Amanda, look at me. I reached for her, but she pushed my arm away. What the? I stumbled back. I let Lisa take her by the arm and calm her down. I wasn't the best at pep talks. Amanda's losing it, Tommy, I shouted ahead, but as I turned the corner back to the mine cars, he wasn't anywhere to be found. I called his name, but only heard my own echoes reply. The idiot had gone ahead without waiting. Luckily Amanda had made her way back, and we continued forward. Tommy. We each took turns calling out to Tommy, but there was no response. All we heard were our own echoes. But there was something off. They came back too fast, and sometimes in someone else's voice. I was getting worried. He might have hit a pocket of dead air. Luckily, we'd brought self-rescuers with us. For those outside the surveying walk of life, they're small rebreathers that scrub the CO2 from your breath and give you a limited supply of oxygen. If you're lucky, you'll get a few hours out of them, which is enough to get back to the surface. I prayed that Tommy was wearing his. A few minutes later, my prayer was answered. His rescuer, logbook and hard hat lay on the ground. This didn't make any sense. Why would he drop his gear? He's in charge of safety. Fuck, Amanda, we might need to start making our way back. We might need to call for help. I turned around to hear what she was saying, and found her stood talking to the wall. Amanda. I grabbed her by the shoulder and spun her round. Who are you talking to? She looked at me, smiled. My grandfather, silly. I stepped back. This fucking routine operation was going sideways. I put my rebreather on. There had to be something in the air. Lisa recommended I let Amanda rest, and try to look for Tommy. I grabbed his rebreather, and forged ahead. I walked what felt like a few minutes, marking junctions, planting flags. I didn't have long, and this was life or death. I turned the corner, and saw Amanda sitting down, her back resting against the wall. That didn't make any sense. I'd walked ahead, not around. I took a deep breath, taking in more oxygen. It was probably an effect from whatever I'd inhaled down here. Amanda, I'll be back, I just need to look for Tommy. She raised her head, her confused eyes meeting mine. Who's Tommy? I shook my head, and forged on. After a few minutes, I could feel the temperature starting to rise. I drained what little was left of my water. The further ahead I walked, the harder it became in the heat. Lisa suggested it might be smart to drop some of my gear. I agreed. I found Tommy, or a piece of him. His hand was poking out of one of the walls. It wasn't that the rock had crushed him. It was like his hand had always been there. Like he'd always been there. It was like the rock had formed around him. His finger twitched. I reached towards the hand but noticed the walls around his hand started to ripple, like water, like it was breathing. A scream snapped me to the present. Amanda. Was she behind me? Or ahead? The tunnel seemed to stretch and contract as I ran towards where I thought she'd be. I found her standing with her back to me, perfectly still, facing the wall. Amanda, we need to go. Now. I grabbed her hand, pulled her forward, running faster than I should in a mine. It's when she didn't reply. And her hand felt wrong. Too light. I stopped and turned. Amanda, are you okay? There was no one behind me. My eyes slowly shifted down to the hand I was holding. It was Amanda's hand, still wearing her field watch, the second hand ticking but attached to nothing. I let go, and stumbled back. Ripping off my mask, I threw up, and when the stench of the cave hit me, I gagged and threw up more. It reeked of rotting flesh. That's when I looked around and finally took in my surroundings. The cave walls were pulsing, they glistened under the light of my head lamp. The throbbing behind my eyes got worse, and the last thing I remember before blacking out was being dragged. I woke up outside the mine, and I'm not proud to say, in a puddle of my own piss. I grabbed Lisa and drove us back to our motel as fast as I could. I've tried calling for help, but the reception isn't great here. There's no one at the front desk, and I have a feeling I might not survive the night. I've spent the last 30 minutes typing up what I remember, and I've been thinking about why they never removed any ore. Over 4 decades, not a single ore mined or even recorded. And I have a theory, they were never mining in the first place, they were feeding something. And after recalling the events of today, I've checked and rechecked the prep we did for this job. Each time, I've arrived at the same conclusion: there was never anyone named Lisa on the team.